If there's one thing that separates a common run from a completely broken one in the Spell Brigade, it isn't luck, it's combination. And when you start to understand how certain spells connect, the game simply stops being difficult and becomes a spectacle of chain destruction. In this video, I am going to show you 10 spell combinations that are simply absurd. The kind that clears the entire screen, melts bosses in seconds, and makes you wonder if this was actually balanced to exist. In 10th place, I put Talon / plus Dark Infusion, because it is one of those combinations that looks simple but gains absurd strength once you understand the value of constant impact. Talon / is already great on its own, and when you pair it with Dark Infusion, it stops being just a physical attack and becomes a much dirtier, more aggressive threat that is much harder to ignore. What catches my attention the most in this combination is how it transforms a skill that many people underestimate into a real tool for survival. This type of synergy helps keep the wizard alive in moments when the run starts to get tight, because you do not depend solely on raw damage. You gain pressure, sustain, and a greater sense of control over the fight. In a horde game, that is worth gold. I like combos like this because they do not look like the flashiest at first, but they are the ones that punish the map the most once the build gets into its rhythm. From the moment you begin to land more hits and make better use of your strikes, Talon / with Dark Infusion becomes increasingly unpleasant for the enemies. Mainly because it mixes damage, consistency, and that safety margin that saves a good run from turning into a disaster. So even though it is only in 10th place, I would not treat this combination as weak by any means. In practice, it belongs to that group of setups that might not explode the screen in the most insane way possible. But they get the job done very well and still let you play with more confidence, especially when the match starts to get truly cruel. The broadsword is the brutal physical base of this build. It is the type of weapon you pick when you want to go straight at the enemies. No nonsense. Heavy damage, wide swings, and a sense of power that makes you feel like a true warrior mage. For those who like to play aggressively, it is essential because it clears entire hordes with a few well-placed strikes. The plasma infusion is what transforms this already strong greatsword into an area of effect machine of destruction. It adds explosive elemental damage that not only increases total damage but also creates that incineration effect in the collision area. It is like when you hit an enemy and see the plasma explosion spreading, burning everything around it. Very satisfying to watch and even more deadly in practice. Joining the two, you have a combination that works perfectly for the most intense runs of the game. The greatsword carries the consistent physical damage while the plasma explodes and incinerates the groups of enemies trying to surround you. It is a synergy that not only destroys normal enemies but also melts bosses if you maintain the right aggressive rhythm. In the 9th place of the ranking, this combination occupies a very good spot. It is not the absolute top, but it is definitely one of the most reliable builds for anyone who wants more direct, heavy, and explosive gameplay. If you enjoy feeling the impact of every hit and seeing enemies explode into plasma, this is your perfect playstyle in the Spell Brigade. Now let's go to 8th place. Astral Orbs are essential because they are those projectiles that rotate around your wizard or chase enemies automatically, creating a mobile death zone that never stops attacking. The real magic happens when you add the Ice Infusion, because this transforms these orbs into a freezing trap that severely slows down or completely freezes all creatures that dare to approach your character's front line. The position of this build in the ranking as 8th place is strategic. It is not at the absolute top because it depends on the proximity of enemies to activate the full freeze, so it is more of a brutal crowd control tool than instant explosive damage like the top positions on the list. But what makes it destroy the run is the security it provides. While your orbs rotate and cause constant damage, the ice prevents the hordes from reaching you, transforming boss after boss into a dance where you are always in control. Personally, I think this combination is underrated for longer runs or on hardcore difficulty because the freeze ensures that you are never surrounded and suffocated. Astral orbs alone are already strong for causing magic damage and having upgrades that increase this damage by up to 10%, but with ice, it becomes a living fence that literally does not let enemies pass. It is that build that looks calm on the screen, but behind that sluggishness of the enemies, you are destroying all their life with almost no damage taken. If you want a combination that allows you to chill and cruise through the run without atmospheric stress, this is your choice, even being in 8th place in the overall raw power ranking. The Ice Infusion transforms the orbs into personal defenders for your wizard, and the Astral Orbs ensure there is always someone or something attacking the enemies, even when you are retreating. It is pure synergy between offense and defense, made for those who want to win without panic. 7th place, Magic Missile plus Double Thunder Infusion is that type of combo that looks simple on paper, but in practice turns into a screen-clearing machine. Magic Missile already has that look of a no-fail spell. It seeks out targets and maintains pressure without you needing to constantly adjust position. What makes this combination truly shine is the feeling of total control in the chaos. When you add the Thunder Infusion on top of it, every shot gains a much more aggressive visual and functional impact, so the build stops being just safe and becomes brutal against hordes. For me, this combo deserves the 7th position because it is strong, consistent, and easy to understand, but it still lacks that insanity of other setups that turn an entire run into a walking magic accident. Even so, I like it a lot because it delivers results without requiring perfect execution, and that is worth gold in long runs. In the ranking, it stays in a zone I would call too reliable to ignore. It is not necessarily the flashiest on the list, but it is the type of choice that puts my mind at ease when I want a stable run, with constant damage and efficient enemy clearing without suffering to aim. The combination of Phantom Blades plus Acid Infusion is simply one of those magic leaps that makes any run in the Spell Brigade look like child's play, and it thoroughly deserves this 6th place in the ranking. When you start to load this duo, you quickly realize you are not just throwing several spells, you are creating a damage system that practically locks down the entire screen of enemies before you finish off everything that actually kills. Phantom Blades itself is that spell I cannot live without in an aggressive run. You launch multiple blades that cross the map, react well to refinement, increase in quantity, and even pierce enemies, turning into a massive damage area if you manage to reach the right levels. In game terms, it is one of the rare spells that allows you to clear a stage without being glued to a specific enemy, ideal for when the map begins to turn into a true chaos of monsters. Meanwhile, Acid Infusion enters as the pain guarantor you like to see when everything starts to get too crowded. It applies a vulnerability debuff that leaves the enemy weaker against future damage, and when you stick that onto the Phantom Blades, each blade passing through the screen not only hurts, but also prepares everyone for the next ranged spell you are going to use. At the peak of this 6th place, what impresses me most is the way you control the rhythm of the entire stage with this combination. You not only kill fast, you prepare the battlefield before any large enemy appears. For anyone who wants to ride in style without just relying on straight shooting at monsters, this is one of the most elegant and lethal combinations you can assemble in any run of the Spell Brigade. In my ranking, this combination stays in 5th because it is very strong in the early and mid-game, but it still depends a bit on you hitting your mobility and positioning right to truly shine. I see this as a build that already arrives commanding respect, except it does not yet have that feeling of total dominance found in the more absurd combinations at the top. What catches my attention the most about Solar Pulse is this idea of transforming proximity into constant damage. It creates continuous pressure around the character and makes any enemy trying to surround you pay dearly for it, which fits very well with a more aggressive and always on the move style. The electricity infusion is the detail that makes everything more addictive. It pushes the build into a fast, continuous rhythm, leaving the feeling that every action of yours is feeding the chaos of the match, and this connects very well with those who enjoy lighter, more agile, dodge-based gameplay. In the end, what makes this combination destroy is precisely this balance between attack and mobility. You cause constant circular damage while staying alive, and you still gain a very good synergy with dodge builds and sustain for you and your allies, though without reaching the level of effortlessly broken seen in the higher options of the ranking. 4th place, Scepter Mesh plus Fire Infusion, is the type of combination that looks simple, but in practice turns into a true screen grinder. Scepter Mesh already has that knack for transforming the battlefield into a constant danger zone, and when the Fire Infusion enters, everything that touches it begins to melt away gradually. What I like most about this build is that it does not depend solely on immediate explosions. It punishes the enemy all the time. This makes the run much more comfortable because you do not have to chase down every single target with absolute precision. The arena itself already works in your favor. In my opinion, it deserves this 4th place, because it is an extremely strong combination, but it still falls a bit behind the more absurd synergies that scale better or clear the screen with even greater speed. Even so, when this duo clicks, the feeling is that you have set up a perfect trap and are just watching everything be consumed by fire. And therein lies its charm. It is not just raw power, it is control. For me, this is one of those combinations that make you realize, mid-run, that the game has practically started to solve itself. If there is a combination that simply breaks the normal rhythm of a run in the Spell Brigade, it is Aurora Wings with Dark Infusion. Seriously, this one is not just strong. It completely changes the way you play. You stop thinking only about direct attacks and start playing around smart movement while the game practically resolves itself around you. Aurora Wings by itself is already absurd. The mobility it delivers pulls you out of impossible situations without effort, and that in a chaotic game like this is basically half the victory. But the most interesting detail is that it does not just serve to escape. It positions you all the time in the best possible place, which makes any other active effect yield much more. Now, when Dark Infusion enters, things truly scale up. The darkness effect not only increases damage, but starts to control large groups of enemies almost automatically. You see entire hordes becoming weakened, being drained while you just keep moving. Now, it is that type of build that gives the feeling that the game is always one step behind you. For me, this combination easily deserves third place, because it balances two very strong things: safety and constant passive damage. It is not the most explosive build in the game, but it is one of the most consistent and, above all, one of the most comfortable to play. It is that perfect choice when you want to guarantee a solid run without relying so much on perfect execution. In second place, I put Falling Stars plus Acid, or Ice Infusion, because this combination is one of those that look unfair when they fit together right. The community itself treats Falling Stars as one of the most absurd spells in the game, and there's even a meta build highlighting this skill with Lightning Infusion as a reference of power, which reinforces how strong it is right out of the gate. The reason I like this duo so much is that it not only hits hard, but also controls the rhythm of the arena. With Acid, you weaken enemy resistance and make every impact count even more. With Ice, you gain that effect of locking down movement and creating a safer zone to keep melting everything without taking a breath. In practice, Falling Stars already looks like a spell made to clear screens, and when you add one of these infusions, it stops being just strong and becomes a consistent tool of massacre. I see this combination as the type of choice that saves a bad run and transforms a normal match into one of those runs where you stop playing in fear and start dominating the stage. So in this ranking, it stays in second place because it delivers absurd damage, space control, and easy-to-understand synergy, but it can still fall below a combination that has more total consistency or an even higher ceiling of destruction. In short, it is a build I would choose without thinking twice when I want to run zero risk and see the screen explode the entire time. This combination here is not just strong, it basically redefines the pace of the run. Rune Burst on its own is already an absurd ability because it scatters several runes across the field that explode in chains, clearing groups with ridiculous ease. It is that type of spell that gives you area control without needing to expose yourself, so you already start the run with a sense of security well above normal. Now, when Plasma Infusion enters, things scale up in a somewhat unfair way. Plasma mixes fire with lightning, so you are not just causing damage, you are applying a hybrid effect that burns and electrocutes at the same time. This transforms each explosion of the runes into a mini catastrophe, especially against tougher enemies that would normally withstand basic hits. The most absurd point of this build, in my opinion, is the performance against bosses. While many combinations struggle to maintain consistent single-target damage, here the opposite happens. The runes keep stacking explosions on top of the boss, and with Plasma, every detonation becomes a very high damage spike. It is that type of setup that makes boss fights look much shorter than they should be. Therefore, placing this combination in first place is no exaggeration. It features map clearing, area damage, constant pressure, and still melts bosses effortlessly. It is hard to find another build this complete. Normally you sacrifice something, but not here. It is simply one of the most efficient ways to break the game today.